Hello, welcome to the Mindful Commerce Sustainability Framework Mastermind. I'm super excited to be here. Big thanks to Derek and the team at eCommerce Tech for hosting today and putting together a great lineup. To be honest, I'm super privileged to be here. So yeah, thank you. The reason why this is pre-recorded is just because of time zones, and I really wanted to be here in some way or another. So thank you, internet. Yes, I'm Chrissy, one of the co-founders of Mindful Commerce, and I'll be speaking about how you can harness the power of technology to create a sustainable and positively impactful e-commerce brand. So if you're ready, let's go. At Mindful Commerce, we help e-commerce businesses to grow without costing the earth. We facilitate the connection between e-commerce brands, tech solutions, and service providers who are working together to make e-commerce more sustainable and positively impactful. My co-founder Rich and I are passionate surfers and outdoor enthusiasts. That's us there in the picture. And we know just how much humanity relies on the sea and our environment. We've worked in e-commerce for a number of years and recognized how fast the industry is growing. And we've recognized how this is damaging the planet. We simply cannot avoid the fact that e-commerce is a contributing factor to oceanic and environmental pollution. The growth of e-commerce is exciting. There's a huge amount of opportunities for people like us. But we need to be mindful of how we can help our planet, people, and the environment to thrive when growing our businesses, rather than the other way around. So, all in all, we are on a mission to help the e-commerce world become a better place through education, conversation, and collaboration. Today represents an exciting opportunity for us. So we've obviously got a bunch of super smart, well-connected e-commerce professionals together in the same place. Thank you, Derek. And we get the chance to get you thinking differently about e-commerce and the environment. Being more mindful about the way in which we approach e-commerce helps in a range of ways. It's not just about saving the planet. Your business can benefit as a result of this stance too. And that's what we'd like to get you thinking about today. So I want to talk about the changes that need to be made within our industry and the benefits that they can have for people, planet, and profit. When it comes to benefiting your business and the planet, there are two main ways in which a focus on sustainability can have a positive impact. Number one, consumers are being more conscious in their choices. Demand is rising for conscious consumerism, and you can meet that demand by following our framework and this mini mastermind today. Number two, you'll differentiate yourself, stand out in your own field as a brand who champions and implements sustainable business practices. And by the way, if you are an e-commerce agency or an e-commerce tech solution, this goes for you too. So it's time for the truth bombs. The hard truth is we are in the middle of an ecological emergency. Science indicates that we have less than a decade to start making some serious lifestyle changes. And this includes the way that we shop. And guess what? That includes the way that we shop online. So therefore, e-commerce businesses like yours have a big role to play to ensure consumers have access to shopping in a way that practices positive environmental and social impact. So, unfortunately, online doesn't mean impact free. Just because there's no brick and mortar presence, shopping online still has an ecological consequence. And we must do all we can to reduce this as a number of online orders are scaling. It is estimated that 95% of purchases will be made online by 2040. So here are some stats. 1.5 billion trees would need to be planted to deal with annual e-commerce returns in the US alone. That's a lot. That's a lot. E-commerce packaging accounts for 30% of solid waste generated in the US. And there is 4 grams of carbon dioxide in a single standard email sent. That's more, that's before adding attachments. So e-commerce is scaling, and as it grows, so does its impact. Businesses like yours can help to make change now, before the issues scale and become irreversible. If we make changes now, those improvements will scale alongside the industry. What's changed without a plan of action, I hear you ask? Well, I'm very glad you asked, because we just so happen to have created an expertly researched blueprint for e-commerce businesses looking to do the right thing. So that's whether you've got an e-commerce brand, e-commerce tech solution, or an e-commerce agency, or anything to do with e-commerce and selling online. So, drum roll, please. Introducing the Mindful Commerce Framework. The framework is broken up into 6 individual pillars of sustainability. We've got mindful business, footprint, communications, sourcing, deliveries, and products. And to make things even more approachable, each section offers quick wins and big wins. So the quick wins are the most accessible actions you can take for positive impact, and big wins are considered to be more significant changes that bring even bigger significant results. So during this mastermind, we will cover 1 win or 1 big win per pillar. But please note, we have so many more for you to get inspired by. So if you're inspired after this, just send us an email and we will send you to the right place to discover the rest of them. Okay, so let's take a whirlwind tour of the 6 pillars to start getting you thinking along the right lines. We will give an overview of each and hone in on one particular pillar, as we think it will be relevant to everyone and might even surprise a few of you. So, welcome to the first of the 6 pillars in our sustainability framework, mindful business. What do we mean by mindful business? This pillar is about the way you do business. At Mindful Commerce, we define a mindful business as a business that's built on solid mindful foundations. So think of this pillar as laying the solid groundwork needed for improvements to be made in your business from the ground up. This encompasses sustainable consumption, stakeholders, purpose and profits, the circular economy, and social impact. You can think of this as things like considering what kind of purchasing behaviors you're encouraging in your customers and what kind of impact you're having on the wider society. As already mentioned, we're just covering a couple of ideas for each pillar in this brief session, the idea being to get you thinking along the right lines and to see the potential for improvement to your own business. So let's dive right into a big win. Here's a peek at one of our big wins towards forming a mindful operation. Could you turn your e-commerce product into a service as well? This is a hugely innovative step towards growth and sustainability. In 2018, the rental market for consumer goods in the US generated $6 billion, not including homes or cars. So, do you offer a product you could lease rather than sell? Mud Jeans is a great example of this tactic. They offer jeans for lease. At the end of the contract, the jeans can either be returned or traded in for another pair. And this reduces the amount that ends up in landfill after use. So, mindful business sets the tone for your company as a high caliber, high demand, conscious innovator in the e-commerce space. We are now moving on to the second pillar of the mindful commerce framework, which is mindful footprint. I think we all have an idea of the carbon footprint that comes to mind when we hear this phrase. But did you know your footprint reaches far beyond its physical carbon impact? Have you thought about your digital carbon footprint? Just as a hint, we'll come back to this at the end of the masterclass and give you some quick wins around your digital footprint. But for now, we'll move on to considering product carbon labeling. So, this is actually a big win for this pillar. You could leap ahead of the pack and solidify your brand as a pioneer in the e-commerce space by implementing carbon labeling into your products. Major brands like Allbirds, who you've probably heard of, and Oatly already plan to incorporate or already are incorporating carbon labeling for their whole range. Counting your every carbon toll gives your brand a sense of transparency and solidifies you as a leader in your space. Throughout our extensive research and collaboration with leading experts, the team at Mindful Commerce firmly believes that carbon labeling will soon become standard practice. You want to be able to say you are ahead of the curve. So go and check out Allbirds and Oatly if you need an example to guide you on your own efforts. And if you need an expert's hand, head over to Climate Partner or Green Story. So Climate Partner is an expert consultancy that can help you measure, label, and offset your carbon footprint. And Green Story can help you measure and label your products according to their impact and carbon footprint as well. So you'll actually find Green Story on the Mindful Commerce directory. Head over there, take a look. If you like what you see, contact them. In my opinion, they're great. So let's move on now to the third pillar, mindful communications. I'm just going to have a sip of water. So what do we mean by mindful communications? This pillar is all about using your voice to affect change and speak to the values your company holds. This is accomplished through transparent communications, industry-wide campaigns, advocacy, and spreading awareness. So you're going to be putting your best foot forward and doing great things to help the planet. Now it's time to speak up, let the world know what you're up to, and inspire others to follow in your footsteps. So here's a quick win that I'll share with you. It's a simple action that can make a huge impact. You've all heard of Black Friday, and I know this is going to be a very tricky, difficult one for you to hear, but could you possibly opt out of Black Friday or do an alternative campaign like Green Friday? Black Friday promotes overconsumption, unnecessary packaging, shipping emissions, and things ending up in landfills. If you haven't heard of Green Friday, it's a progressive campaign started by French companies who are rebelling against consumerism. Green Friday is now celebrated globally on the 27th of November. And all you have to do is brainstorm how your brand will show up differently and then put your plan into action on that date. This Green Friday, could you try running a campaign to educate your audience about the sustainability issues in e-commerce and the ways in which that you are helping or that you plan to help? Or could you organize a fundraiser for a cause that is in alignment with your brand, or transition to sustainable packaging on all your orders this season? Even if you're not quite ready to fully opt out of Black Friday yet, creating a campaign to celebrate Green Friday shines a light on the forward-thinking steps that you are taking. Hopefully, you'll influence others to do the same whilst building awareness of how Black Friday isn't really that great for the environment. And here's a big win. Have you planned any sustainability campaigns to highlight the hidden impacts of e-commerce and advocate for change? So similar to what you could do on Green Friday, this could be a campaign that you do on Green Friday. So a large portion of e-commerce consumers make online purchases regularly without realizing all the implications that e-commerce has on our ecosystems. This is largely because the consumer only sees the beginning step and end result of an e-commerce transaction, i.e. clicking purchase and then receiving the shipment. According to research that we did with a climate impact agency called 12, one key finding was that consumers care about plastic, but they're still unaware of many other impacts of e-commerce. Emissions, of returns, shipping, deliveries, there's a lot more that is centered around the impact of e-commerce. So, although consumers are largely unaware of the environmental impacts, you as a merchant are aware. So you see everything that goes into a single e-commerce transaction, from the sourcing of materials and manufacturing to packaging and the emissions burned through shipping. By educating others of those impacts that e-commerce has on the planet, through industry-wide campaigns, you put the power into the hands of consumers to make informed purchasing decisions. And that will actually boost loyalty in your customers and actually will help with retention and average order value purchases as well. So, yeah, bringing awareness to these issues will inspire others to get involved and make a real difference. Okay, so now we're moving on to pillar 4, mindful sourcing. This is all about your supply chain. So the choices you make for operating your supply chain are foundational and have far-reaching impacts. From the flow of business to the quality of your products and environmental impact, your supply chain is the jumping off point for almost every other decision you make as an e-commerce brand. So what exactly are you taking into consideration when thinking about the supply chain and mindful sourcing? For us, we're talking about sustainable materials, ethical sourcing, practices, and supply chain transparency. So we're going to dive into a big win. Are you positively impacting the environment in how you source your products and materials? So leave no trace ethics are a great start, but what about leaving the environment even better than you found it? So instead of simply do no harm, aim for leaving a positive impact on our planet, and give back to the environment and communities that are helping you to build your business. Look to Puka Herbs for some inspiration. They source organic ingredients from all around the world and are working on a number of regenerative projects to build farmer knowledge and to mitigate the effects of climate change whilst improving their yields. So where do you see room to leave a positive impact on where your business is rooted? Okay, now we're moving on to pillar 5. When most people think about sustainability in e-commerce, packaging and delivery is typically the first thing that comes to mind. From packaging materials to emissions generated during delivery, not to mention our current culture of over-purchasing simply to return the items that don't work out. Fulfillment certainly is, and deliveries, an integral piece of the sustainability puzzle. So this pillar focuses on packaging and fulfillment. In our sustainability framework, we cover packaging use, emissions from delivery and returns, and delivery methods. This pillar uncovers ways in which you can minimize the impact of the journey your products take as they are sent to your customers. So here's a quick win. Have you thought about incentivizing customers to choose standard delivery or last green mile? E-commerce has conditioned consumers to expect next day delivery, but this is not sustainable. And let's be honest, it's stressful for you as the merchant. Next day delivery typically elicits travel by air or unconsolidated deliveries, taking a much heavier toll on the environment. So please consider offering discounted rates on standard shipping or offering rewards to customers who don't require next day by air. Although it's best to avoid free delivery because it promotes overconsumption, consider adding green messaging to your product descriptions. For example, add an explainer text in your delivery options to show the associated carbon cost. Shoppers may then be nudged to choose a more sustainable option. And this one comes a little bit back to like how you communicate with your customers. Do you provide clear disposal instructions with all of your packaging? So many packaging products are, in fact, recyclable. They can actually be mistaken by customers for non-recyclable materials, and then they end up in landfill anyway. So it's super important to be very clear about how your customers can recycle your packaging. You can even leave an explainer on your website and include a note with shipping that tells the story of the packaging materials that you do use. And yeah, just inform them properly about how they can dispose it. I want to thank you so much for working through this mini training and working to be more mindful of your impact. We have one final pillar to look at, which could be a huge leap forwards. So, final pillar, mindful products. What do we mean by mindful products? This refers to products that make a real difference. Do you provide your customers with information on how to repair your products? So in the past, clothing repair shops were all over the high street. Yet in our modern era of throwaway and disposable products, clothing repair has become somewhat of a novel concept. Mending and repairing products is much more sustainable than chucking them and buying new. So can you prevent products from ending up in landfills by offering accessible repair services or resources? Could you offer a take-back service for your products to give them a second life? If there are materials in your products that can be repurposed or made into new things, why not give them a new lease of life? Can you take back used products and turn them into something new and beautiful with a second life of its own? Or even consider salvaging used clothes for parts that can be reused to find new life in future products? It is extremely important to take a good long look at the items you're selling and the materials that you sell them within. By thinking creatively about the ways in which you can extend the life of your products, you stand to not only improve your sustainability, but also grow your status as a forward-thinking and progressive e-commerce business and brand. So what's next? This concludes our whistle-stop tour through the 6 pillars of the Mindful Commerce framework. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope you're feeling motivated, hopeful, and like you could adopt at least one of these ideas and practices that we've covered so far. So throughout this mastermind, we've given you a glimpse of the Mindful Commerce Sustainability Framework. This was created through loads of research and collaboration between e-commerce merchants and top sustainability experts and green developers. It's a step-by-step guide that walks you through tried and true methods to making e-commerce a sustainable industry. Because let's be honest, in its current state, it is not. It takes considerate, caring brands like you to take innovative steps in a sustainable direction in order to allow e-commerce to continue to be a feasible option for the planet and for profit. As promised, we're coming back to the second pillar, mindful footprint, in particular, your digital carbon footprint. Brands like Organic Basics are already doing a great job of this, offering a low impact website that exemplifies many of the best practices. Their low impact website sits alongside their higher impact website and allows consumers to make the choice to come back to the low impact site, which is what I do as a returning customer. So here are some easy steps for reducing your website's impact and digital carbon footprint. Could you compress your images and use less video or turn off autoplay? Or use illustrations instead of big, heavy graphics that zaps energy from the earth? Switch to a renewable energy host, compress everything, CSS, JS, etc. Reduce the number of fonts. Use system fonts, streamline user journey, review the design, the typefaces, etc. Use specific colors for branding. We can tell you more about this if you email us. Succinct messaging, get straight to the point so people don't have to spend too much time on your website and therefore taking more energy from the planet. That way they spend more time purchasing from you. They do it quicker. What else? Yes, send fewer tweets and even fewer emails. Use SMS because it's better for the planet. Use .digital because they're the most sustainable email provider. And gosh, there's so much more. Controversially, use photos or animations if it will help shoppers to be more informed and therefore reduce returns. In our full sustainability framework, you'll find loads more quick and big wins that you can take towards sustainability and ethical e-commerce. So thank you so much for having me. Please email me if you would like some support and if you would like to go deeper on any of these pillars. Head over to mindfulcommerce.io/sustainability framework. My email is info@mindfulcommerce.io. And don't forget to join the community on this link, mindfulcommerce.io/join the community. And also go and browse the directory because it is full of e-commerce experts with a mindful approach who can help you to do a lot of these pillars. And in our full framework, you'll see lots more tech solutions and service providers who can help you on your journey as well. So yeah, thank you very, very much. Thank you, Derek, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Chrissy. Oh my gosh, so much to unpack there. And I think, while it sounds a little nitpicky, there's a lot of benefits to minimizing compressing images, minimizing JavaScript, and making the site load faster. And now we can think about those benefits as far as its cost on the environment. It is absolutely true that if we don't change what we're doing in the near future, it's not going to go well at all. And so I think there are some very simple changes that we can make based on Chrissy's advice. And then there's some more complex changes that have to occur over maybe the next weeks, months, and years as it relates to packaging, product, shipping, and other forms of sustainability. And we will hear from Shopping Gives later on in today, I believe, to talk about ways to give back and perhaps find a way to become carbon neutral through donating money and planting trees and things like that. So I really hope you consider working towards being carbon neutral as a brand yourself. And it can actually be profitable in the sense that it can increase conversion rate and you can connect with consumers in a unique and compelling way. With that said, we're going to go right into our next session,